Confidence starts long before you say a word. It starts in the way you breathe when you enter a room, the way your shoulders settle instead of tighten, the way your eyes meet someone else's without flinching or searching for approval. You don't have to announce who you are, your presence does it for you. That's what real confidence feels like. It's quiet, steady, and grounded. It doesn't rush to fill space, it lets space exist. And that silence, that calm energy, draws people in more than any loud, overcompensating voice ever could. Think about the people you've met who instantly make you feel at ease. They don't dominate the conversation. They don't compete for attention. They simply exist in a way that makes you want to listen. That's the silent power of presence. It's not about pretending to be mysterious. It's about being comfortable enough in your own skin that you don't need validation to feel valuable. The moment you stop chasing approval, people start giving it naturally. Especially women who can sense the difference between quiet confidence and quiet insecurity within seconds. A confident man walks into a room with his attention outward, not inward. He's not wondering, do they like me? Or am I enough? He's observing, listening, connecting. He's calm because he's not performing. There's no mask to maintain, no role to play. That calmness is contagious. It tells everyone around him, you're safe here. That's what women love about confident men. It's not the flash, it's the feeling. They feel secure, not in a controlling way, but in a grounded way. You can't fake that energy. It comes from doing the inner work, from knowing who you are even when no one is watching. Most people confuse confidence with dominance. They think confidence is about having control over others, when in truth, it's about having control over yourself. The man who can stand in a moment of silence without fidgeting, who can hold eye contact without turning it into a power move, that man communicates strength without aggression. He doesn't need to prove he's in charge. His composure does the talking. That's the difference between attraction and intimidation. One draws people in, the other pushes them away. When you carry quiet confidence, your words start to matter more. People listen because you don't waste energy speaking just to be heard. You speak with intention. You choose when to talk and when to pause. And that pause, those few seconds of stillness are powerful. They show patience. They show control. They show you're not reacting, you're responding. Women notice that. They notice when a man doesn't let emotion hijack his tone, when he's thoughtful instead of impulsive. Presence isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's being fully there, not distracted, not lost in anxiety or overthinking. The truth is, presence can't be built overnight. It's the product of many small choices. Choosing calm over chaos, choosing focus over fear, choosing to breathe when every part of you wants to rush. Confidence comes from experience, from failure, from growth, from proving to yourself that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. That's why truly confident men seem unshakable. They've already seen themselves break and rebuild. They've learned that peace is stronger than panic. When you show up with that kind of energy, you don't have to convince anyone to like you. You don't chase attention because you've already found your worth. Women feel it instantly. They sense the security in your silence, the steadiness in your movements, the patience in your presence. That's what makes you magnetic. It's not the loud laugh, the expensive clothes, or the witty lines. It's the grounded awareness that says, I'm enough, and I don't need to prove it. That kind of confidence turns heads without trying. It doesn't need to compete, doesn't need to win every interaction. It's power through peace. And when you learn to carry yourself that way, not only do people respect you more, life itself starts to respect you. Confidence isn't about how much you talk, it's about how much meaning lives inside your words. A confident man understands that speaking with intention carries far more power than speaking for attention. When he talks, people lean in, not because he's louder than everyone else, but because his voice carries clarity, purpose, and calm conviction. He doesn't need to fill silence with noise because he knows silence isn't weakness. It's control. It's awareness. It's the space where real connection happens. Most people talk to be heard. Confident men talk to be understood. That difference changes everything. When a man speaks with intention, every word serves a purpose. He's not trying to dominate the conversation or show how smart he is. He's not performing for approval or validation. He's engaging, not entertaining. Women notice that instantly. They can tell when a man is present in the moment versus when he's just waiting for his turn to talk. And that presence, that deliberate way of communicating, is magnetic. It shows maturity, composure, and focus, qualities that go far beyond surface level attraction. Speaking with intention begins with listening. The most confident men are often the best listeners. They pay attention not just to words, but to tone, to pauses, to what isn't being said. They listen to understand, not to prepare their next argument. That kind of listening creates trust. It tells people, I see you, I hear you, matter. Women love that kind of energy because it's rare. It shows emotional intelligence, the ability to make others feel valued without having to say much at all. When a confident man finally does speak, his words carry more weight precisely because he doesn't waste them. He knows when to pause, when to reflect, and when to answer. He speaks from clarity, not emotion. He doesn't let frustration, ego, or insecurity drive his tone. Instead, he stays grounded, collected, and thoughtful. That self-control communicates volumes. It says, I'm not ruled by the moment, I'm leading it. Think of communication like music. A good song isn't just about sound, it's about rhythm, timing, and silence between the notes. A confident man uses silence like rhythm. He's comfortable enough to let a pause linger, to let his words breathe, to let others process. That space is where authority lives. People who rush their words often sound unsure, but someone who takes his time, who speaks slowly and deliberately, instantly commands attention. He's not trying to convince you, he's simply telling you what he knows to be true. Speaking with intention also means knowing when not to speak. Confident men don't argue with noise. They don't defend every opinion or correct every misunderstanding. They understand that not every conversation deserves their energy. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Restraint is a language of its own, and women notice it because it signals control. A man who can hold his peace in a heated moment isn't passive, he's powerful. He chooses where to place his energy instead of letting others pull it from him. There's something incredibly attractive about a man who doesn't need to over-explain himself. He states his thoughts clearly, calmly, and leaves it there. He doesn't chase agreement or validation. His tone is steady, his message direct. That calm confidence communicates self-assurance. It says, I'm not here to prove I'm right, I'm here to speak my truth. Women are drawn to that kind of clarity because it feels safe, it feels trustworthy, and it feels real. In a world full of people talking just to be noticed, the man who speaks with intention stands out effortlessly. His words resonate because they come from alignment. His actions, values, and tone all match. He doesn't perform confidence, he embodies it through composure. And the beauty of it is that this kind of communication doesn't just attract attention, it earns respect. You remember the man who speaks less but says more, because every sentence feels like it comes from a place of purpose. Confidence isn't found in the volume of your voice, it's found in the strength behind your silence. It's in knowing that the right words, delivered at the right time, can move people far more than endless talking ever will. And when you learn to master that balance, listening deeply, speaking clearly, and pausing intentionally, your presence becomes unforgettable. Women don't fall for men who talk the most. They fall for men whose words make them feel something real. Confidence isn't measured by how much control a man has over others, but by how much respect he carries for himself and the people around him. The strongest men don't lead with ego, they lead with respect. It's the quiet, grounded kind of leadership that doesn't demand attention but naturally earns it. A confident man doesn't need to put others down to stand tall. He knows that making people feel small never makes him any bigger. Real confidence is rooted in kindness, not dominance, and that's what makes it unforgettable. When a man leads with respect, it shows in the smallest things. The way he listens without interrupting, the way he values opinions different from his own, the way he treats everyone with the same level of dignity. He doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most influential one. His respect for others doesn't weaken him, it defines his strength. Because only a man who is secure in who he is can give respect freely without feeling like he's losing power. Women can feel this difference immediately. They can sense when a man's confidence comes from ego, from a place of trying to prove something, and when it comes from authenticity. Ego tries to impress, confidence simply expresses. The man who leads with respect doesn't try to show off what he can do, he shows how well he can understand, protect, and uplift. That kind of energy creates emotional safety. It tells a woman, you can be yourself around me, you won't be judged, you'll be seen. And that feeling of being seen is what builds connection faster than charm ever could. Respectful leadership also means accountability. A confident man doesn't blame others for his mistakes. He takes ownership of his actions, his tone, his words, his outcomes. That level of responsibility builds trust. Because respect isn't just how you treat others when it's easy, it's how you treat them when it's hard. Anyone can be polite when things are calm, but the real test of character is how you speak when you're frustrated, how you respond when someone challenges you, how you behave when no one is watching. That's where women see the truth of a man's confidence. A man who leads with respect doesn't use his strength to intimidate, he uses it to steady others. He knows that power without compassion is just control, and control without care is emptiness. So he leads gently, speaks honestly, and acts consistently. He doesn't confuse vulnerability with weakness or kindness with submission. He knows that true leadership is about creating balance, standing firm while staying open, being strong while staying kind. That balance makes him magnetic. When he communicates, he doesn't raise his voice to prove his point. His tone carries calm authority. He doesn't need to win arguments, he focuses on understanding. That's because respect isn't about agreement, it's about acknowledgement. He knows how to say, I see where you're coming from, even when he disagrees. And that small act turns potential conflict into connection. Women love that in a man. not because it makes him perfect, but because it makes him emotionally intelligent. Leading with respect also means he values boundaries, his own and others. He doesn't chase what doesn't belong to him, and he doesn't tolerate disrespect in return. He knows his worth, but he never uses it as a weapon. His presence commands respect because it's built on mutuality, not control. You don't have to guess his intentions, his actions make them clear. He treats others the way he expects to be treated, not because it's a strategy, but because it's his standard. That kind of man stands out in a world full of arrogance and noise. He's steady where others are defensive. He's kind where others are careless. He leads without forcing, influences without manipulating, and loves without conditions. When a man leads with respect instead of ego, everything around him gets better. His relationships, his work, his peace. Because respect doesn't just earn admiration, it builds trust. And trust is the foundation of every real connection, especially with the kind of woman who's not impressed by words, but by how you live them. Emotional control is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities a man can have. It's not about hiding what you feel. It's about understanding it, managing it, and choosing how to respond instead of letting emotions take the wheel. A confident man doesn't suppress his emotions, he owns them. He feels deeply but stays steady. He doesn't explode, he doesn't overreact, and he doesn't let anger or frustration define his tone. He knows that the real strength of a man isn't shown in how loud he can get, but in how calm he can stay when everything around him is trying to shake him. In heated moments, most people let emotion lead. They react before they think, speak before they listen, and defend before they understand. But a confident man does the opposite. He pauses. That pause, that small, silent moment between stimulus and response, is where maturity lies. It's where emotional intelligence begins. Instead of reacting to the fire, he becomes the water that cools it down. Women notice that instantly. They feel the difference between a man who's controlled by his emotions and a man who has mastered them. One feels chaotic, the other feels safe. There's something magnetic about a man who can face conflict with composure. He doesn't match someone's anger, he matches it with calm. He doesn't raise his voice to win a point, he lowers his tone to win respect. That level of restraint doesn't come from weakness. It comes from deep strength. It comes from knowing that anger is easy, but control is power. When a man can stay grounded while emotions are running high, it sends a message, I'm not afraid of my feelings, and I'm not afraid of yours either. That kind of steadiness creates trust. Women are drawn to that kind of emotional grounding because it creates safety, not physical safety, but emotional safety. It's the kind of presence that says, you can be real with me and I won't fall apart. That's incredibly rare. Too many men mistake stoicism for strength, thinking that being emotionless means being strong. But confidence isn't cold, it's warm and controlled at the same time. It's being able to say, I'm angry, but I won't let anger speak for me. It's being able to admit fear without letting it dictate decisions. Emotional grounding means being aware of your inner world while staying calm in the outer one. A confident man also knows how to regulate his energy. He doesn't drain himself proving his point or chasing every battle. He picks his moments wisely. He knows that not every argument deserves his voice and not every situation deserves his reaction. That level of restraint is self-respect. It's understanding that peace is more valuable than being right. And ironically, that peace makes his presence more powerful. When you don't rise to every provocation, you show people that you control the room by controlling yourself. Emotional control doesn't mean being numb. It means processing emotions instead of projecting them. When he feels frustrated, he reflects. When he feels disrespected, he decides whether it's worth addressing or walking away. He doesn't bottle things up, he channels them productively through communication, through movement, through purpose. That's what separates emotionally intelligent men from reactive ones. They use emotion as information, not ammunition. A grounded man doesn't need to prove his masculinity through aggression. He proves it through consistency. His calm isn't apathy, it's discipline. And that discipline shows up in every part of his life, in the way he communicates, works, and loves. It makes him reliable, predictable in the best way. Women love that kind of reliability because it builds trust. It tells them, no matter what happens, he won't crumble. That steadiness is rare in a world full of impulsiveness, and that's what makes it so attractive. A confident man knows that anyone can be composed when life is easy. True control shows when everything feels like it's falling apart, and he still stands tall, still speaks gently, still thinks clearly. That's the kind of emotional balance that turns chaos into clarity. It's the kind that earns respect, invites love, and builds unshakable confidence. Because when you can stay calm in the storm, you don't just survive it, you lead through it. Confidence isn't something you wear, it's something you live. It's the quiet alignment between what you say and what you do. A man who knows his values and lives by them doesn't have to convince anyone of his worth, because his actions already prove it. He doesn't need validation from the world, because his compass points inward. That's the kind of man who carries unshakable confidence. not because he's perfect, but because he's consistent. He knows what he stands for, and that gives him direction in a world full of distractions. Values are the invisible structure behind a confident life. They shape how you treat people, how you make decisions, and how you respond to challenges. When a man lacks values, he drifts, changing his behavior based on who's watching or what he thinks people want to hear. But when he's rooted in principle, he becomes grounded. His choices aren't random, they're guided. That kind of clarity is powerful. It tells people that you can be trusted, that you don't bend with pressure, and that your integrity isn't for sale. Women notice this immediately. They can sense when a man knows himself. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't compromise his standards for attention. He can say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. He's not easily influenced, and that steadiness feels safe. A man with values doesn't chase what's popular, he follows what's right. And because of that, he stands out in a crowd of people pretending to be something they're not. Living by your values means your character doesn't change depending on the situation. Whether people are watching or not, you stay the same. You keep your promises, you respect your boundaries, and you show up fully. That reliability builds trust faster than charm ever could. Confidence isn't found in big moments. It's built in the small, quiet choices that no one sees. It's choosing honesty when lying would be easier, respect when anger would feel better, and integrity when no one's keeping score. When you know your values, you stop trying to fit into everyone else's story. You start writing your own. You don't chase temporary approval because your worth isn't up for negotiation. That's where peace comes from. Knowing that your decisions reflect who you are, not who you're trying to impress. And that kind of peace radiates. It changes how you walk, how you talk, and how you carry yourself. People feel it. They trust it. Women especially are drawn to it because it represents stability in a world full of inconsistency. But knowing your values isn't just about self-image, it's about self-respect. You can't respect yourself if you constantly betray your own principles. When you do what you say you'll do, your confidence grows naturally. Every time you keep a promise, you teach yourself that you're dependable. Every time you stand by your word, you strengthen your self-belief. That's how real confidence is built, not through achievements, but through alignment. A man who knows his values also knows what he won't tolerate. He sets boundaries not to control others, but to protect his peace. He doesn't overextend himself to earn love or acceptance. He gives generously, but not at the cost of his self-worth. That quiet discipline earns respect because it shows balance, kindness without weakness, strength without arrogance. Over time, that integrity becomes magnetic. People feel safe around a man whose words and actions match. They know where he stands. They know he won't say one thing and do another. That kind of consistency is rare, and rare always commands attention. Women admire it not just because it's attractive, but because it's trustworthy. A man like that doesn't just talk about who he is, he lives it. Confidence that lasts doesn't come from how the world sees you, but from how you see yourself when no one else is looking. And when your values guide your every move, you never lose your direction, no matter what life throws your way. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't fade, the kind built on truth, not performance. Confidence doesn't need a spotlight, it proves itself in silence, through action, through consistency. A man who truly believes in himself doesn't waste time announcing what he's going to do. He simply does it. He doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth because he's too focused on building it. His reliability, his discipline, his follow-through. That's what defines him. In a world full of empty talk and short-lived promises, a man who lets his actions speak louder than his words becomes unforgettable. People pay attention to what you do long after they've stopped listening to what you say. Words are easy, they cost nothing, but actions require investment, effort, patience, integrity. A confident man understands that his credibility is built not by his speeches, but by his patterns. When he says he'll show up, he shows up. When he gives his word, he follows through. That kind of consistency creates quiet power. It doesn't need to shout because it's proven over time. Women especially are drawn to that steadiness. It shows dependability, the kind that says, you can trust me not because I said so, but because I've shown you. A man who lets his actions speak doesn't perform confidence. He lives it. He doesn't brag about his goals, he works on them silently. He doesn't seek applause for his efforts, he finds satisfaction in growth. He's not chasing validation because he already knows his value. Every day he puts in the work, whether anyone's watching or not, and that kind of self-accountability creates a quiet charisma that no amount of showing off can replace. The truth is, talk fades fast. You can talk about being loyal, but people remember whether you were there when they needed you. You can talk about having ambition, but people notice whether you're consistent when motivation runs out. You can talk about respect, but people see how you treat them when they have nothing to offer you. A confident man doesn't just describe his character, he demonstrates it. His actions are his proof, his track record, his reputation. This kind of strength doesn't happen overnight. It's built in small, consistent choices. The way you keep commitments even when it's inconvenient, the way you finish what you start, the way you stay true to your word when no one's checking. That's what separates a man of intention from a man of impression. The first builds something lasting, the second builds something hollow. Women see the difference instantly. They can tell when your confidence is earned versus when it's performed. Earned confidence comes with calmness. Performed confidence comes with noise. A man whose actions match his words doesn't need to prove his masculinity. It shows naturally through responsibility. When he says he'll call, he calls. When he commits to something, he delivers. When he makes a mistake, he owns it instead of making excuses. That kind of honesty and reliability builds a reputation stronger than any image or appearance. People start to associate his name with trust, and trust is one of the most powerful forms of attraction. The beauty of letting your actions speak is that it never goes out of style. Trends fade, appearances change, but integrity always holds value. You can't fake consistency. It reveals who you are over time. A confident man understands this deeply. That's why he invests his energy in becoming dependable instead of being impressive. He knows that character, not charm, is what leaves a lasting mark. Women love men who move with quiet purpose because it feels safe and real. There's no guessing, no mixed signals, no performance, just truth backed by behavior. When a man's life aligns with his words, it builds trust, respect, and admiration without him having to demand it. His silence isn't emptiness, it's confidence. His calm isn't distance, it's discipline. At the end of the day, people don't remember what you promised, they remember what you delivered. They don't remember how loudly you spoke, they remember how consistently you acted. A confident man knows this and lives by it. He builds his worth one choice at a time, quietly and deliberately. And in doing so, he becomes someone others rely on, someone women respect, and someone the world listens to, not because he asks them to, but because his actions make them want to. Confidence isn't built in a moment. It's built in the way you live day after day. It's not the clothes you wear, the car you drive, or the words you say. It's the energy you bring into every situation. It's how you make people feel when they're around you. The most confident men don't chase attention. They command it quietly through calm presence, self-control, respect, and integrity. They don't need to prove who they are because they already know it. That's what makes them magnetic. When you look at the patterns of truly confident men, you'll see the same foundation repeated again and again. They're grounded, not arrogant. They speak with purpose, not noise. They lead with respect, not ego. They control their emotions instead of being controlled by them. They live by their values even when it's hard, and they let their actions speak louder than any words could. That's what separates them from the rest. Their strength isn't in what they show off, it's in what they consistently live by. Women love confident men not because of status or charm, because confidence feels safe, honest, and real. It's the kind of energy that brings peace instead of pressure. It's the quiet assurance that says, I've got this, even when life gets heavy. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't fade with time. It grows stronger because it's rooted in character, not appearance. So if you want to be that man, the one who attracts respect, trust, and love without ever needing to chase it, start by mastering yourself, build your calm, not your chaos. Keep your word, not your excuses. Lead with empathy, not ego. Speak less, do more. Because in the end, confidence isn't about being perfect, it's about being real, being steady, and being the kind of man who doesn't have to tell the world who he is. The world already knows.